Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Jay Tanner, and today I wanted to talk about Velma again. We just got a new trailer for HBO Max's Velma, and all I can say is, hey, that Mario movie's not looking too bad. But seriously, shock value and referential meta humor isn't exactly my favorite. This whole thing feels like they're trying way too hard, but it also feels like a mistake because the whole gang is here except for Scooby-Doo, who's the only one that actually matters. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's not called the Scooby-Doo franchise for nothing. You can't have the human characters without him. I mean, I love these characters, but it is what it is. There have been tons of Scooby-Doo media over the last 50 odd years, and even though they didn't all include the gang in its entirety, they all included Scooby. Because you can have Scooby without the gang, but you can't actually have the gang without Scooby. There was a movie back in 2018 about Velma and Daphne, and it's basically forgotten because it's pointless. Scooby is what makes them work. If they're not going to include Scooby, they should just make their own show with their own original characters. But Scooby has officially been confirmed to not be included in this show. In an interview, the crew said it felt like what made it a kids show was Scooby-Doo. That coincided with Warner Brothers Animation saying, hey, you can't use the dog. So we were like, great, this works out well. But really, that probably should have been their first clue to just not make this show. At least not as a part of the Scooby-Doo franchise. Warner Brothers is probably worried about the adult nature of the show affecting Scooby's reputation as family-friendly, but they don't really need to worry about the others because they're not the brand. So now it just feels like they're trying to profit off of Scooby's franchise without actually using Scooby. I'm honestly surprised the show is even still getting greenlit considering all the animation that was cut from HBO Max. But here we are. So now we have a prequel to the Scooby Gang with no Scooby. And we have seen several prequels of Scooby across the years, and they all had Scooby in them. Who was really asking for an adult animated Scooby with tons of gore and butts? And no Scooby. As for the characters we are getting, they've all been race swapped with the exception of Fred, which is a really bad sign for his character. The Hollywood formula is very predictable and we all know how this is going to go, and they basically specify as much. Scooby-Doo has 50 odd years of history, but they went with the most boring and mean-spirited interpretation they could have for this show. When describing his character, the first thing they say is that, like in the original, he likes to take credit for other people's work. But the only time I can remember him doing that is in the live-action James Gunn movie. But that film was really more of a parody or spoof. It wasn't trying to be faithful to the original, but instead play around with the original show's dynamics. But in Scooby-Doo Where Are You, they all contributed, they all found clues, they all helped take down the bad guys. Sure, they had their faults, but they still had their moments. Velma was the brains, Daphne was the heart, Shaggy and Scooby are the stomach. That's only half a joke, an army moves on its stomach, and half the time Shaggy and Scooby are the ones that caught the bad guys, and Fred is the hands of the group. In the original, Scooby was the one that tended to get most of the credit, not Fred, because he's the face of the show. Everything about this version of Fred feels disingenuous. Plus, we've already gotten similar concepts to these in other shows and done better. Apparently, he has some kind of disease that makes him shallow and he can't recognize people who aren't hot. He also has crippling daddy issues, which he had in Mystery Incorporated, so that's not new. They also say that he's desperately trying to hide the fact that he hasn't gone through puberty yet, but how can he hide something like that? Shouldn't he still have a higher voice and be kind of petite? I'm not really sure where they're going with this, but some people are just late bloomers. They don't have to be ashamed for that. But I always viewed Freddy as more of the big brother of the group, rather than just boiling him down to his appearance, which they're really ramping up in this series. It just seems kind of malicious here, and it's not just Fred either. The first thing they say about Daphne is to forget everything you know about her, which won't take long because she didn't have any character to begin with. She was just pretty. Why are these writers so shallow? She did a good job grounding the show, and aside from Shaggy, she's probably the human character that stuck around the longest. There was an era of Scooby-Doo where it was just Daphne, Shaggy, and the dogs. So for them to write her off like this is really weird and kind of insulting. They're also sexualizing her, which is kind of an issue because they are meant to be minors in high school. But according to Velma, sex sells, so never mind that they're underage. But I guess this attitude makes it unsurprising that they completely disregarded any characterization she did have and basically made their own character, which they probably should have just done from the beginning. This does not need to be connected to Scooby-Doo whatsoever. And last, of course, there's Shaggy, or in this case, Norville. I know it's his real name, but there's a reason why he goes by Shaggy. He's also been race swapped, but in this case it feels kind of in poor taste, especially since they're playing up the stoner stereotype. Also, Shaggy inherited a southern plantation from his uncle.
Wow! Imagine inheriting a whole southern plantation.
Everything everything about this is just awkward. Here he's the editor for the high school newspaper. Also, what kind of name is Poor Town High? They couldn't have just called it Coolsville? At least Crystal Cove was a good name. Anyway, he has to deal with the fallout of his family's deep, dark secret. You don't say. Either way, Velma's here to help him out. I feel like this show is very basic. It's an immature, mature comedy with basic stereotypes of the characters. They're acting like they're really deep, but really they're extremely predictable, and they're just not as clever as they think they are. And frankly, these characters deserve better. Warner Brothers should have just greenlit a series that's similar enough to Scooby-Doo, but is not associated with the franchise. Cartoons based around celebrities aren't a new thing, so why not just give Mindy Kaling her own cartoon, with a mystery-solving element? It can be as adult and raunchy as she wants, without dragging down these characters. But I guess companies are gonna do whatever they want, but we'll see if it works out for them. But admittedly, I don't plan on tuning in. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think Velma has potential? Or do you think it just doesn't work? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our channel's members: Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Sandy Martin, Verdant Range, Butcher7 Actual, Dash Hound, JVR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Eric Griffin, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Bandito Bane, Hunter Rose, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Owen Wildish, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, and Garcia XV Legend. Thank you all so much for your support. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have a buy me coffee if you want to support us that way. But if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel, which helps us out a lot too, and it's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.